Good evening. Hereby convened Westchester Township Trustee meeting, November 12, 2013. Mr. Jones, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Here.
Mrs. Stoker?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here. Please arise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Okay, first we have citizens' comment. 2 minutes. First person sign up is Ms. Beth Howard. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Beth Howard. My address is 9740 Farmcrest Drive, Westchester, Ohio. I'm a resident of Westchester for 31 years. During the 1990s, I was the vice president of a local environmental group. I did a lot of work with public records, and I had to battle Ohio EPA and Butler County over them again and again. Now I'm having a problem getting public records out of Westchester Township, and I'm not happy about it. On November 3rd, Fiscal Officer Bruce Jones sent out a controversial email in which he identifies himself as the Westchester Fiscal Officer and refers to himself as the Fiscal Officer 5 times. He complains about some alleged behavior by Trustees Wong and Stoker, and he discusses some inner workings of the township, some alleged inner workings anyway, and I found all of this very interesting. One of the things he says is that everyone knows accountability is compromised when transparency is compromised, and where transparency is compromised, integrity is sacrificed. So, on November 7th, I filed a public records request for his email and all subsequent emails between Mr. Jones and any other party or parties that pertain to the email of November 3rd. And the response I got back was that there are no public records responsive to this request. I'm not buying it. I know this record exists. And I believe that there are additional emails that pertain to this original email. There is, under Revised Code 149.43, as you know, public records have to be made available for public inspection during reasonable business hours and within a reasonable amount of time. And so far, I haven't gotten anything. If the argument is that this is not a public record, I don't buy that either, because he's referred to himself as the fiscal officer 5 times. Okay. I will get started in 2 minutes.
Well, there's a second citizen's comment where you can speak longer than 2 minutes.
Thank you, Beth.
Next we have Mr. Bruce Jones.
I'm Bruce Jones. I live at 5685 McCarthy Court, and I'm proud and honored to be your fiscal officer. I should note that Ms. Howard's, the email about which she's referring in her information request for inquiring minds, it was submitted 2 business days ago, November 7th, 6:07 p.m., sent to ptiffany@westchesteroh.org. Okay. Ms. Howard's request might seem like a reasonable request if it only were about public information and the business of the township. But asking for other people's personal email addresses
Mr. Jones,
is really...
Can you face us addressing the trustee?
This is their concern, so I think they're party to it. I'll get with you in a moment. Now, but asking for other people's personal email addresses is really about other people's private information. That's why, in the interest of protecting people's privacy, my email did not disclose their email addresses. Thus, her request may very well be illegal, recklessly violating the privacy rights of others. The sad truth is, under the guise of transparency, this is nothing more than a very cynical expression of post-election sour grapes rooted in revenge and anger. And this is how we know this to be true. Twofold. One, if it were not cynical and vengeful, then Ms. Hauer would have also submitted a similar request for the email addresses of the people to whom Trustee Stoker sent a response to my email. But she made no such request. Secondly, as many people know, Catherine is a longtime good friend of Ms. Hauer. Just post-election sour grapes. Catherine, she's your friend. Please deal with her. No one else has time for this. I remain proud and honored to be your fiscal officer. Now let's get on with the business of the township, one of which has to do with the minutes that we're going to discuss. Please consider the October 8th minutes withdrawn, because I know you need more time than I allowed, having just sent them to you Friday, okay?
I read them.
Did you?
Anybody here? I know you guys didn't, because you guys didn't even notice he hadn't sent you the...
Oh, I did. I sent him a response before you did. I just didn't copy you and leave. I sent them the day I got it. I said no attachment.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, and the minutes from the 24th with the changes.
I did see that right away.
The changes you submitted yesterday afternoon, Catherine, for September 24th. That's what you're voting on today.
Okay.
Well, I thought we also had October 8th on the...
I consider it withdrawn because... Did you have a chance to review it?
I did.
I did.
Okay. All right, very good.
Mr. Dieter Luber?
Yeah, I'm looking at my watch, so I'll make sure I got 2 minutes.
We're going to start at 6:06.
My name is Dieter Luber. I live in 7573 Granby Way over 10 years. This is the 3rd time I came here, and I always enjoy Westchester Township Trustees meeting. First of all, I want to congratulate Lee Wong for your re-election. Sorry to see you go. I'm really feeling bad about it. And to make it quick, my point is about the new business, what we're always creating here in Westchester. Sometimes I have a big problem that you guys always giving them a long tax-free for the new business, for the minimum wages jobs. When it came to our last election, I found out that less than 30% of the Butler County people actually vote. Then I found out that in Westchester, foreclosures are above 32%. And where I live, in Kingsgate or Granby Station, we have so many empty buildings, but we do get more fast food restaurants on Tyersville, and we're creating more congested traffic. Somehow I'm losing touch that you guys are always giving business the tax break, and then when the voting came, I have to pay now an extra, I'm fixed income, I have to pay a few $100s more, when my property is only less, 30% less. So I don't know the picture when you always say Westchester is the fastest growing business community, but people are hurting here in Westchester. I'm talking about not over on the north side, I'm talking about on the south side. So my point is, will on Cox to Tyersville, Kingsgate Way, will there ever be coming a share the road sign? Or will people do walk to the stores, and one of these days they're going to get hit there on that street? We don't have, it's always a big problem. So is there in the future something where we have a little safety? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dieter.
I apologize. I have to check. I'm expecting a grandbaby.
I know, I just turned mine down. I forgot the silence. Okay, next we have action items. Item A, motion to approve. I will entertain a motion to approve trustee meeting minutes, September 24th, 2013.
I'll make the motion with some corrections Kathy submitted.
Yeah, I submitted just a few typos.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And I will entertain a motion to approve trustee meeting minutes, October 8th, 2013.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I have, yes, I had just a couple of little things. On page 3, there were a couple of spelling things that need to be corrected. And on page 2, we were discussing retire, rehire, And in reporting what I said, Mr. Jones says, she also said there's no statutory requirement for firefighters in Ohio, unlike police officers, to publicly address a rehire request. Now, I didn't have time to go to the videotape, but I can't believe I said that because I don't think it makes sense. I think what I said was that firefighters in Ohio, unlike police officers, do not need to publicly announce. They can just start collecting retirement if they want and do it totally secretly.
Can we just table this till the next meeting, give you time to
Sure.
go to the tape and look at it?
Sure.
Perfect. I will withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw the second then.
Okay, so item C, motion to approve payments of bills.
Also move.
I'll second.
And that was item C.
Right, discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker,
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mrs. Boyko, item D, requisition greater than $2,500.
Item 1 is administration, $269,129 to Otarma. This is to renew the township's liability and property insurance for remainder of December 31st, 2013 through November 30th, 2014. This represents only a 1.5% increase over last year's premium, and I think it's a compliment to our broker, Risk Source, Clark Theaters, in their ability to negotiate these terms with our pool provider. As you know, we've increased the number of our buildings, we've increased the infrastructure, we've increased the miles of our roadway, plus expanded services, and that 1.5% increase is to be commendable. Also, I wanted to note that in addition to this being only a slight increase over last year's premium, we will also be recognized as part of the capital distribution for Otarma's pooled plan. We will receive about a $20,000 rebate, but it won't be reconciled until next year. So we pay it, but then we'll be rebated next year for about $20,000, which reduces the cost even more. Item 2, administration, $12,320.40. This is the Data Processing Science Corp. This is to upgrade the network switch infrastructure, which is a capital improvement project. Item 3, police, $4,195 to John Hank Atkins, doing business as Top Line Armor Systems. This is to purchase 5 sets of SWAT body armor that have expired, and it's my understanding that 50% of this will be reimbursable through a U.S. Department of Justice grant. Item 3, services, $176,605 to Central Salt. This is to purchase salt for the 2013-2014 winter season, and who would have expected that we would have used some of it potentially today or last night. And item 5, services, $4,500 to Univar USA Incorporated. This is to purchase liquid calcium chloride for, again, the 2013-2014 season, which is another material as part of our tools for snow removal and inclement weather.
Excuse me. I will entertain a motion for item 1 through 5.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Judy, on the purchase of 5 sets of body armor, that's to replace 5 current sets, is that correct?
Yes, that have expired.
What do we do with the old sets?
My understanding is
Are we allowed to sell them, or do we have to confiscate them?
no, I think because they're expired, they're no longer deemed to be safe. We cannot, I'm sure there's a process or procedure, Lieutenant Colonel, in disposing of those. Yes.
That makes sense. I'm just curious. Thanks.
On item 4, salt purchase. Is that 2,750 tons for the whole season? For $64.22 per ton, right?
Yes, it's the, that was, I'm sorry, what is your question? I apologize.
Is that for the entire season, the 176,000? 2,750 tons.
Yes, that is. And we generally, the contract with the engineer's office, their supplier, we are able to purchase plus or minus a significant error of tonnage. So we may not purchase exactly that much, or we may purchase more. But whatever we purchase, we actually is what we pay.
Okay.
God's in charge of how much we eventually purchase.
All right, roll call.
I agree.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 6, personnel items.
Requesting the board's consideration to release a collective bargaining unit employee. A firefighter sustained a job-related injury April of last year, certified by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation while performing official duties and has been medically unable to perform the duties since that time. We have been working with the Bureau and also with the employee to hopefully have his return to work, but unfortunately his physician of record determined that his medical restrictions are permanent and he is unable to return to his duties as a firefighter paramedic. Because of his inability to perform his requirements and duties of the firefighter, we are requesting the board consider to medically separate him effective November 15th, 2013. So requesting the board's consideration to motion to release a contract employee for medical separation effective November 15th, 2013.
I will entertain a motion for item 6.
I'll make the motion to release a contract employee for medical separation.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Business item 7.
Item 7, the motion to extend the current contract for 1 year with DeCosimo for professional services. I believe your memorandum introducing the topic is self-explanatory, but as you know, we traditionally RFP or RFQ for broker services or supplier services or contracted services, and gap conversion and CAFR preparation is one service in which you do a request for proposals. In addition to your internal audit, your independent auditing services, you also do that as well. Previously or currently, the contracts for those two types of services are staggered. And in order to attract and solicit competitive firms for both, the Finance and Information Technology Director, Mr. Kime, would like to advertise those services, RFP services, at the same time, which makes tremendous sense. So we are requesting so that we could get those two services, brokerage services, simultaneous. We are asking that the board consider extending the current contract with DeCosimo for 1 year so that we are able to then have those two contracts brokered simultaneously. And there is a sample motion at the bottom of your memorandum for your consideration.
I will entertain a motion for item 7.
I'll make a motion to extend the current contract with Joseph DeCosimo and Company, LLC for 1 year, January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014 for professional accounting services, for gap conversion, and for comprehensive annual financial reports. Preparations for the year ending December 31st, 2013, not to exceed $22,000, and authorize the Township Administrator to execute said contract.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 8.
In August of 2013, a request was submitted to the board to approve advertising for a new copier contract as our current contract expires December of this year. We did the appropriate and traditional advertising process of running legal ads, providing it on the website, and solicited 5 responses to that RFP. Since that time, staff has been reviewing and determining the best recommendation for the copier services, and as part of that process, it was revealed that the rates, even with the lowest bid, were about 35% over current contract. Reviewing that, I believe that those rates were determined to be unrealistic because our copying demand and volume has been reduced significantly over the last 5 years of the current contract, and the type of equipment doesn't justify the volume. And so obviously the suppliers needed to be compensated for that equipment that potentially is no longer necessary, the robustness of that. So it is the recommendation of staff for the board to consider extending the current contract with Don Lincoln McCarthy for another year to more in-depthly review the demands and copying needs over the next several years. I asked for this 1 year extension because I believe next year you'll see that a lot of technology implemented services are going to be recommended to the board, not only an intranet, but not only looking at also cloud technology as part of accessing documents and things like that, and also a document management system that staff has been reviewing and studying over the last 12 to 14 months. These ideas will be coming to you next year for your consideration. And because of those three that potentially could be implemented over the next several years, i.e. over the life of the next copier contract, it makes sense to take the time now to really discern and determine what the volume of those copying needs before contracting for another 5 years. There is a sample motion for your consideration at the bottom of the... let me make sure. Remember,
I got it.
You got it? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I will entertain a motion for item 8.
I make the motion to extend the current agreement with Donald and McCarthy for 1 year, January 1, 2014 through December 31st, 2014, for copier equipment and maintenance services, and authorize the Township Administrator to execute said agreement.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 9.
Since 2008, the Westchester Farmers Market, as presented by First Financial Bank, has been operated and managed by the Feed Barn. With some life changes to that particular family, the Feed Barn is no longer able to, nor can, continue as the manager-operator of the Westchester Farmers Market as presented by First Financial Bank. So at this time, it behooves the Township to solicit requests for proposals or requests for qualifications to continue the farmers market. It is a tremendous community amenity that demonstrates and really exemplifies and brings to the township cottage style and agribusiness-like amenities. It's a very well-attended event and program. So requesting the board's consideration to allow staff to advertise a request for qualifications to program, manage, and operate the Westchester Farmers Market as presented by First Financial Bank.
I will entertain a motion for item 9.
I'll make a motion then to advertise per Mrs. Boyko's description for a request for qualifications for management services to program, manage, and operate the Westchester Farmers Market presented by First Financial Bank.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
You know, the Russello's impact on this will truly be missed. They've done a remarkable job over the years. When they started, they just had a few vendors and maybe scores of people that attended. Now they have scores of vendors and thousands of people that attend this. And people look forward to it. It's something that they plan their week around or their Saturday mornings around anyway. And, you know, they've done a really nice job representing us. And sorry that life changes won't allow them to continue to do so. They've done a great job.
I think we agree we all miss Jim Rossello. He was a wonderful part of our community, and we miss him every day.
Yeah. And Linda done a great job. So, discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 10.
A motion to appoint Community Development Director Mike Yingling as representative to serve on the Westchester Township JED 1 board. His recommended service will fill an unexpired term of October 1, 2011 to September 30th, 2015, caused by a resignation by a current Westchester staff member.
I will entertain a motion for item 10.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 11.
It's Community Development Department's recommendation to declare 8161 Clearbrook Drive as a public nuisance. A sample motion has been prepared for page 2 of your memorandum.
I will entertain a motion for item 11.
I'll make the motion that after having reviewed the staff report and affidavit, I move that we declare the property listed on the Westchester Township Board of Trustees meeting agenda dated November 12, 2013 to be a public nuisance as authorized by the Ohio Revised Code. Staff is directed to cause removal of the nuisance identified and monitor the property for 90 days to require continued compliance. An administrative charge of 25% shall be added to the contractor fee for the property.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 12.
Item 12. As has been discussed previously by the Board of Trustees, In order to construct its facility, the Lakota YMCA needs an access easement on Township property at Beckett Park East. You all are familiar with the current entrance at Beckett Park East off of Union Center that aligns with the entrance to the Savannah Center and also serves as an entrance to the Beckett Park East, but also the Westchester Baseball Complex. As a condition of approval, the National Park Service is considering and would permit an access easement only to a not-for-profit recreational type use like the Lakota Family YMCA. And so in order to effectuate the zone change and rezoning of the property and the further development of the property, it's being brought to this board for its consideration to approve a proposed access easement along the portion that I just spoke. You are familiar, this was presented to you, and this would be contingent upon, your approval would be contingent upon National Park Service approval, of course. Your approval this evening, if so deemed, we would then take those documents to the National Park Service, seek their approval, and then upon their approval, I would then be able to, again, through direction granted by this board, execute those documents to actually implement the access easement. There is a sample motion. As part of the access easement, I should say that the obligations would be the township agrees in the easement to pay and to construct and install a mast arm decorative traffic signal at that intersection. It's finally warranted with the projected and proposed use of the Lakota Family YMCA. Prior to that, a traffic signal was not warranted, but will benefit, even though not warranted by others, it will benefit all, including the Savannah Center, the Beckett Park East, and of course the traveling public on Union Center Boulevard. In return, the Lakota Family YMCA is obligated to snow and ice treatment and removal on the access easement, and also reimburse the township for any repairs necessary to that portion of the access easement. Now, there's a sample motion at the bottom of your page, your memorandum.
I will entertain a motion for item 12.
Sure. I'll make the motion to approve statutory resolution 20-2013, authorizing the use of a portion of Beckett Park East for access purposes from Union Center Boulevard and approving an easement, operating and maintenance agreement between the Westchester Township Board of Trustees and the Lakota Family YMCA, and accepting a reciprocal recreational use easement for the township's recreational use of the 1.92 acres of the Lakota Family YMCA property as illustrated on the Exhibit F of the agreement, and to authorize the township administrator to make non-substantive changes to the respective easements, including location and language, with law director approval and approval from the National Park Service. Execute any and all necessary documents to effectuate the respective easements.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
You know, this has been a long time coming. We've been working with the YMCA for a while. I see John Schaefer and Greg Amon here from the Y. I think this is going to be a great use of this land for our community. It's going to really tie in nice with the surrounding properties, the park across the street, the barn, the baseball fields. It's going to be a really nice recreational area in the township. And Greg, John, I applaud the investment that you guys are willing to make in our community on behalf of our citizens. Thank you.
Yeah, we've also worked with the church. I think we've been working for about 15 years hoping that somebody would come along and buy that piece of property rather than just having it sit there.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 13.
Based on direction from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, this agency has released the ambulance inflation factor for calendar year 2014. And that inflation factor is a 1% rate increase for EMS services, specifically mileage, BLS, and ALS 1 and 2 types of services. As the board is aware, we have had EMS billing since, I believe, early 2000s. And over the last several years, there have been previous increases to this billing rate. And this Board of Trustees has authorized those increases. The last one was done in 2011 effective in January of 2012. At this time, this 1% increase would be, again, applied to mileage, BLS, and ALS 1 and 2 type EMS services, and presenting this for the board's consideration. I think it's important to note that Chief Guller has indicated that we have seen about a 5 to 8% increase in consumable supplies that are used on EMS runs, and some of the medications have increased by 10 to 20%. So this 1% would offset some of those increased costs that we experience on an ongoing basis. There is a sample motion for your consideration at the bottom of your memorandum.
I will entertain a motion for item 13.
I'll make the motion to approve a 1% ambulance inflation factor increase effective January 1st, 2014, and direct the EMS billing company to reflect the increase on all BLS, ALS-1, ALS-2 ambulance service rates and the mileage factor, and authorize the Township Administrator to execute any and all necessary documents to effectuate the approved rates.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 14.
It is Chief Guller's request to apply for the fiscal year 2013 Assistance to Firefighters Grant, and if awarded, authorize the Township Administrator to accept said grant.
I will entertain a motion for item 14.
I'll make the motion that we approve item 14.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Okay. Citizens' comment. Second block of citizens' comment. Only once? Only twice? Please state your name and address for the record.
I hate to speak in public, but I really have a comment on addressing the trustees. I always thought during
Please state your name
I'm
and
sorry.
address.
Oh, Susan Hendel. I live at 6061 Eaglet Drive. I was under the impression that when your citizen comments were supposed to address the trustees. Now,
Thank you.
I want to know why 2 weeks or 2 meetings in a row you've allowed Bruce to address the citizens and not the trustees. If one of us was addressing you, you would be banging that Hamlet or whatever you have up there, saying you have to address the trustees. So why does he have better privilege than we do? That's my comment.
Very good.
Thanks, Susan.
So anyone else? Please come
Can I
forward.
say something again, too?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
We got somebody got
Yeah,
up
somebody
behind
right
you, but why don't you speak right after this speaker?
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Donna Nickel. I live at 7750 Shenandoah Court in Westchester, and I've been here for 42 years. And I'm a good friend of Catherine Stoker, I'll tell you that up front, since the fiscal officer always wants to talk about that. My question actually concerns the minutes, and I see that you had minutes presented to you tonight that were not able to be approved. You obviously will have the minutes of October 8th and 22nd that are still pending out there. And I find it unusual that you can do the business of the township without having the previous minutes before you to know that you all approve of what is in those minutes and then move forward. So I guess my question, you can address it whenever. I would like a personal address to this whenever you can do it, but why do you as trustees and as the fiscal officer not demand that your minutes of the last meeting be presented at the next meeting and to be approved? You could be falling all over yourself, so I think you're professional enough that you may not, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed. minutes of the last meeting approved before you move on to the current meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay, next.
Do I have to repeat my name again?
Yes?
Yes. And your address.
My name is Dieter Luber. I live in 7573 Granby Way, 10-year resident. And I forgot to mention the first talk. My favorite park is Keener Park, and of course Voice of America.
Right.
But I'm
Face
trying
this
to
way.
face both sides so you can listen both sides, okay? But anyhow, coming back to Keener Park, I think we can improve that park a little bit better since we have the softball field, the soccer field, and I was thinking about maybe a skateboard ring so the kids don't skateboard all over the streets, maybe a playground. Fairfield got it. Most cities have that. Maybe in the future that will draw a lot of kids there. We do need, they love skateboards. And maybe even volley court, something which attracts, the park besides the soccer fields and the softball fields. So maybe in the future we can spend some money for the Keener Park. And besides that, like I said earlier, we cannot always give the business, we're all in together. Sports, residents, when I live in my little area, I almost call it the low income. We live above welfare where I live, and it makes me sad that the other side of Westchester living above in a different cloud. And like I said, we have over 32% nationally mortgage foreclosure, and that makes me kind of sad that Westchester is in that position.
Thank you, Dieter.
Thanks, Dieter.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Amen?
Greg Amon, 7365 Milliken. I just wanted to thank the trustees for all the work they've done in trying to get this project moving forward. We're excited about it. And then on a personal note, I wanted to commend your fire department. They're very professional. We had an air conditioning unit catch smoke, catch fire on top of our building down on Circle Freeway in Crescentville, a big office building. They were there quick. It was in the evening. Everybody was gone. They were out there. They put it out. They were extremely professional, and I think it's really something to be proud of. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you, Tom.
Anyone else?
I think Mr. Rydell.
My name is Barry Rydell. I live at 8069 Lawrence Drive. First, I want to congratulate Lee Wong on his election win, and Mark Wells, who's out in the back. I came here with three things I wanted to mention, but with the email thing, I have a fourth now.
I can't hear you either. You just need to speak up. The microphones will pick it up.
Okay. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing I wanted to mention was or bring up was anonymous complaints for zoning. I think the system of anonymous complaints has a huge potential for abuse, and I don't know how long we've had that system. I personally have been the victim of an anonymous complaint, and I don't believe for a minute that the person that made the complaint was a neighbor. I shared the letter after getting it from the zoning department with many of my neighbors, and they all agreed that didn't sound like a letter written by a neighbor. It sounded like a letter written by a bureaucrat. On the 5th, I had an opportunity to speak with Trustee Stoker at length, the VOA building, and we discussed this, and I think she had said that there's people that drive around that don't even live in the neighborhoods and just look for stuff. And I think we agreed on the term, or I suggested the term busybody. And I just feel like the anonymous complaint system. I know the purposes of it are supposed to be to keep peace among neighbors. I think it does the opposite, because when I was served with a zoning letter, I was suspicious of all my neighbors, and then people later on were given citations on my street, zoning warning letters, and they automatically assumed that I did it in retaliation to everybody. So it created a lot of problems on our street, and I just think it's wrong. My next item, briefly, and I don't even know how it could be done, but throughout the campaigning for trustee, I heard the candidates mention the spending per resident versus the spending per business. I think it was $1.22 for every resident and 44 cents for every business. And I just don't believe that's it may be the overall number, but I don't believe it applies to certain parts of our township. Particularly the neighborhood I live in, Maud. If Maud was, if the streets, the infrastructure of Maud was a residence, they'd be having a motion up here for a public nuisance. If it was a residence in Maud, the infrastructure, people would be filing anonymous complaints. Those streets have not been addressed. We've watched neighboring areas like Ivory Hills get repaved and get money spent in there, and nothing's done to the streets in Maud. So I would like to see some kind of tracking of this number. I don't believe that Maud received $1.22 per resident. I don't know how you could do that. I don't know if it's even possible. But I would like to see some kind of attention spent on how the money of our township is spent, so that when somebody claims that every resident gets $1.22 of the tax money, that some places aren't left out. The third item, this has been a sore spot with me for over a year and a half. I did a Freedom of Information Act request. I was sent 11 megabytes of PDF documents, and I was looking for specific things in that document, which would have took about 2 minutes using a search feature of Adobe PDF. But our PDFs, all of our documents, are stored as images. They're unsearchable, not just by us, but by Google. You can't find this information. It's public information. It should be available. The meeting minutes, you should be able to search on Google, because these documents are public documents. They're posted on the township website. When you search for somebody that's had a problem with their RV, like you are, you should be able to find where this has been discussed, but you can't. I spent less than $100 about 7 years ago and bought software that I can convert any document in my computer system to a scannable, searchable PDF. I intend on upgrading that and found a better one just the other day for $59. So I just, with regards to the meeting minutes especially, and also the documents that are sent or included in a FOIA request, that this is old technology. Now, I don't know if the purpose is to intentionally make it difficult. I find that hard to believe. Or if it's just lack of attention or concern. But those documents are the property of us, all of them. And we shouldn't have to spend an entire weekend reading and searching through them to find something. We should not have to be forced to read 2 years worth of meeting minutes because we can't search them. So I would ask that the township appoint somebody to investigate the software to do this. As I said, for my personal needs, it's very inexpensive. The township may want to purchase something a little more elaborate and broad, and with the licensing and everything, it might be a little more expensive. But I think it's worth the money invested for the time that all of us have to spend. That little bit of investment would pay dividends to everybody. With regards to the meeting minutes, there was a suggestion made, and it's a simple fix. These documents for the meeting minutes can be, or are right now, savable because your meeting agenda is searchable and scannable. So I know that you have the technology to do that. If, with regards to the signatures on either resolutions or things like that, if you're not comfortable with applying an electronic signature, then the very last page could be the signature page. And that could be the one you affix your signature to. And it could be a scan. The rest of the document could be saved as it was created. And I want to mention one other thing about the minutes. I think that our trustees, fiscal officer, these meetings spend way too much time back and forth over the meeting minutes. I know that these are documents, historical documents of the meeting, but we have videos that are on the internet. I don't understand the constant dispute over the minutes. If somebody disputes something, then we go to the video and put their exact words in. It should be that easy. And if the citizens, the people that you think might be concerned about this, if they are concerned, they'll go watch the video. So I think there's a lot of time wasted on the whole meeting. Lastly, I want to address what I believe it was Ms. Howard, the email, Bruce Jones' email thing. I think it's unfortunate, but a lot of politicians use their private emails to do different things, including township or government business. I don't agree with that. It makes it difficult when you do Freedom of Information Act requests and try to find information out. But that's just the way it is. With regards to that particular the statement she made in her citizens' comments, the same information was put on the internet. So if she wants to know everybody that was sent the email, she's going to have to find the hundreds or thousands of people that seen it on a website. And I doubt that that Google's going to give up that information. So I think it's
Mr. Rydell, I can't hear you when you have your face pointed that way. You need to either talk louder or face us, please.
We need a better mic.
No, you just need to speak up.
All I was saying is that the information to the point of the email that Mr. Jones was supposed to have sent out, and she wanted to know all the people the email was sent to. I said that the same information in that email was on the internet, on a website. And if you want to know everybody that got an opportunity to see that, it's going to be impossible because Google's not going to give that information up. They're not going to provide the information to all the people that made a hit or clicked that link. So I think it's kind of a waste of time to try to find that out. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh, Mr. Roman.
I'm Carl Ruhlman, 8285 Ventle Drive, beautiful uptown Westchester. The mics are fine. Mr. Lang and Mrs. Stoker have voices that project. Mr. Wong does not. Mrs. Boyko sometimes, because your face sometimes goes that way, I don't fault you. We can pick it up fine on the videos. Your problem here is the speakers. Please fix them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Raise the voice too, you know.
I'm Bruce Jones with 5685 McCarthy Court. Really don't want to speak that much, don't like to, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But there's comments and questions by a few people, and perhaps I can, shed some light on them. First, I did want to point out that Mr. Amin spoke, identified his address on Milliken Road. One of the prerequisites for speaking here is that you're a resident, property owner, a business owner, and perhaps for anybody who doesn't know, Mr. Amin is a cornerstone, a leader in the YMCA and the project they're going to be putting down here on Union Center Boulevard. So that is the basis for him speaking here, and it's well earned.
Just for a word of it, he does not own that property yet, but he owns a business in the township off of Circle.
Yeah, he's a business
As
owner.
a business
in the township as
owner,
well.
he's entitled to
Well,
speak.
see, I didn't even know that, too.
And we know he's
Great.
a business owner here, so.
We know that, Mr. Jones.
And he has an interest in the Y and the future. Thank you. Secondly, I privately had expressed my thanks to Mr. Wong last Wednesday morning for his re-election, and be happy to do so again. Mr. Wong, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thirdly, Ms. Hendel, Susan, inquired about me using the lectern. I know that I've been held to 2 minutes religiously. Now, with respect to turning the lectern such that it is more neutral, as it had been for years and years and years until perhaps this past spring, as I expressed at the time, that's because I believe this is a lectern paid for by the citizens, not by the trustees, and I think they would agree to that. And plus, they would acknowledge that they work for you. Okay. So there's no royalty in the room. In fact, I think humility is a prerequisite to public service. Ms. Nicole's questioning about the minutes. Now, it's been the long-standing practice of the board, it predates me for years, that the minutes are not always up to date. Okay? So their comfort with that is something to which they can speak. Okay? The minutes of September 24th that they just approved this evening were on the, I believe, the October 8th agenda, and Mrs. Stoker, wasn't prepared to act on it at that time, so they're delayed to the next meeting. At the next meeting, she wasn't prepared for whatever reason, so they're delayed to this meeting. But this gives you an idea of how things work, and as far as their comfort level with addressing minutes until such time that they're all current, I'll leave it to them to address that. But this has been the long-standing practice of this board, well predating me. And lastly, the technology for putting the agendas online such that they're searchable. I appreciate those comments, Mr. Rydell. I'm 100% in favor of whatever we can do to enhance the transparency of it and make them readily searchable, so you can just identify a phrase, what have you, and track the applicable minutes. I'm all in favor of, and anything you can do to contribute to that end, I'm 1,000% in favor. That's it for me. Thank you.
Is that it? Anyone else? Okay. Move on to discussion items and trustee comments. Mrs. Bolton?
I have no listed discussion items.
Mr. Lane?
Sure. Yeah, I have quite a few, actually. First of all, regarding what Mr. Nichols said, I think Bruce gave a pretty fair explanation. Sometimes since I've been on the board, it's been the practice of this board. We typically don't approve them before we have the next one. Maybe that's something we should look at. But sometimes we don't get them until late, and sometimes some of us have corrections or modifications, and it's not fair for us to give modifications to each other the night of the meeting. So when that happens, like it did tonight, we just extended a meeting, which is fairly typical of how we operate. I'm assuming that that's okay, but I don't know that. There could be an issue with it. Maybe we should look into. I see Jeff Monroe's here with our fire department, and earlier when Greg Amin spoke highly of the work we did, I automatically thanked the chief. Jeff, I apologize. I know you're one of the people that work every day in the trenches, and the thanks is extended to you as well. So thank you for your service to our township. That's appreciated. I'd like to take a second and talk about Judy Boyko, if I may. Judy has been an administrator of ours for a long time, and I think the best administrator in the state of Ohio. I think she does a stellar job, and she has not had a raise in, I'm going to say, 4 years. I don't know that that's accurate. It may be a little more, and I would like this board to consider giving Judy a 2% raise effective January 1st of 2014. And I'm prepared to move on that tonight, or if my colleagues would like to wait, we can discuss it at next month's meeting, but I would like to make a resolution that we give Judy a raise effective January 1st, 2014. Do I have a second?
I'm going to wait till it's our time to, if I could. Well, okay, I'll jump in. Mrs. Boyko operates under a personal contract with the board. That's due to be up. I think we ought to discuss it, and, because there are other things that maybe, she's requested as well. So why don't we just take the whole contract as a whole, and when it's presented to us.
That may just take us longer than our next meeting to get that addressed, and I was hoping to get something in place for her for next year.
The contract is out this year, correct?
My employment agreement expires at the end of this year, yes. It has an automatic renewal, but in terms of the current terms, it does expire. And
technically, it expired 3 or 4 years ago, and it just automatically renews every year.
No, the last one, it was a 3-year term, and then it was an automatic renewal of a 3-year term.
Okay.
This is the last of the 6 years.
The last of the last.
And so it would automatically.
I stand corrected, then it was a 3-year renewal, not a 1-year.
Yes, and then now it would be on a 1-year renewal basis. And Trustee Lang surprised me, because when he said he wants to talk about me, it's like I'd like to be talked about, but I'm very humbled and very, very appreciative of that. It has been since July of 2009. However, I would humbly decline any merit increase for the board's consideration, because I think there are several employee groups in the township that last year and this year are not receiving increases because of some financial constraints to specific funds. And I would not, in good conscience, feel right about accepting that when there are employees in our organization.
Based on Judy's declination, I will withdraw my resolution, but I know you are appreciated.
Thank you.
A few other items I have. I have some, I think it's really cool news. We have a resident of Westchester, no longer a resident. He's currently a resident of Afghanistan. He's serving his 3rd tour over there after serving a tour in Iraq. The son of Sharon and Jerry Nelson of Beckett Ridge. His name is Chad Nelson, and 2 days ago he was awarded the Bronze Star by the United States government 2 days ago. So one of Westchester's finest was being recognized. Yesterday I had the opportunity to participate in our annual veterans put on by the Miami University Voice of America, and I just wanted to make sure all of the vets that are here or that watch us on TV are aware. They're currently doing a project to get all of the Westchester veterans' bio on a website. They showed some examples. Lee, I saw your picture on the website. But any veteran here that has served, please get a hold of the library. They would like a picture of you and a biography of your service to our country, and they will make sure that that gets stored for perpetuity. So I would encourage every veteran to do that. Another item that I have is our contract with Independent Energy Consultants is set to expire March 31st of 2013. That's the broker for our aggregation service. Our current contract says we need 120 days notice to terminate that contract. I think it would be a good idea for us to do an RFP, not just on their services, over the next 2 years, we should do one on most of our vendors, if not all of the vendors, that do business with the township, just to make sure everybody is continuing to do the best job that we have, and we have the best in the market representing us. So I would ask consideration for Lee and Kathy to join me in authorizing the administrator to send a termination letter with the understanding that we're going to do an RFP in the first quarter of next year, and they can compete for that business. If we don't do this by the end of this month, their contract will automatically renew.
I think reviewing all our contracts is a good idea, particularly with the new member coming on the board, and the fact that new member is in the audience now. Mark Welch, if you'd like to give a wave. He will be replacing me here on the board. I think that would be a great activity for our new member to undertake with the rest of the board starting next year. As to terminating somebody's contract, a person that I've never heard a bad word said against, I just think that's inappropriate. I don't understand where that's coming from. I think you need to lay a foundation before you go in and terminate a contract. If you have something that you know that I don't know, please feel free to send it to me.
It only comes
in fact, send it to the whole board.
I'll forward it to you guys. But it only comes based on the verbiage of the current contract. If we're going to RFP this next year, we have to, and in the slight event that we pick another broker, which we may or may not, we have to communicate with the current vendor at this point in time, or else his contract's going to automatically renew. It'll just put off doing the RFP for a year if we don't take action.
I don't think countries and empires are going to fall if we put off until the end of the contract looking at whether or not to renew the contract. I've been a contractor both for government and for private entities for over 30 years, and I have to tell you, my grandfather used to say something. I love to talk about my grandfather. My grandfather this is the one who left home when he was 13, rode with Pancho Villa for a while, came up to San Francisco with a load of cavalries. He'd broken for the horses when he was cavalry. He'd broken for the cavalry. The load of mules he had broken for the cavalry as a young man, met my grandmother, decided he was going to marry her, put himself through Golden Gate Law School as an auto mechanic, and when I knew him, he was a judge on the Superior Court of Marin County. All that to say, and I lay that down because I think it gives importance to what he used to say. He used to like to say, it doesn't matter how big a man's bank account is or how big his house is. If his word's no good, he's no good. Now, we have a contract with this gentleman. I don't think you just arbitrarily break a contract because you'd like to rush into a new set of contracts. To me, that is, if not actually dishonest, it certainly, to me, seems unethical. I am not comfortable. Had a gentleman knock on our door the other day. I said, hello. He said, ma'am, he said, I noticed you've got a sick ash tree in your front yard. I'll give you a good price to take that down. I said, you know, I've already talked to a man and I've agreed he's going to take down that one and a half a dozen others. He said, I'll give you a lower price. I don't care what it is, I'll give you a lower price. I said, I'm sorry, I already shook his hand. You know, a contract's a contract.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm not recommending we break a contract by any means.
You're talking about terminating a contract before its natural ending.
Here, let me read you what his current contract says. I'm not recommending we do anything before it ends, but it ends. Here, let me read the verbiage that we all agreed to.
No, I hear what you're saying and what I'm saying.
I'm not recommending we end this guy's contract before it ends. You don't understand what I'm saying if that's what you're hearing. Because that's not what I'm saying at all. Let me read to you.
You're stating about the notice, and it must be given prior.
Yeah, we can't do it unless we follow the rules that he put into his contract.
Right. And what I'm saying is I don't feel comfortable taking that step unless you have some reason to believe that he has not been operating in good faith with us, that there is some problem in the services he has provided. If you have any such information, I wish you would share it with all of us and let us review it.
I don't have anything of public in nature that I would be comfortable sharing at this point in time. But I'm clearly not saying we terminate a contract that is in process. I'm just saying we follow the rules that he put in the contract that we agreed to for termination. So this is not saying we're going to stop your contract. His currently contract is set to expire on March 31st of 2013. It requires a 120-day notice for us to terminate the contract. So in order for us to do an RFP, and what if we do an RFP and pick another vendor, we're not going to be able to use that next vendor because this will automatically renew for 1 year. So if you heard me say, let's stop a current contract, that's not what I said at all.
I think I heard what you said very clearly, and as I said, I think that reviewing all our contracts is a good idea, particularly with a new member coming on the board. I see no reason to notice that, Mr. Barnes, that we're changing our business or...
Well, I don't either. I don't know that we would make a recommendation to change. I agree with you on that.
I see no reason to take action. You have presented no reason for us to take action other than, gee, it would be nice to review the contracts, and which I agree. I think all those contracts should be reviewed periodically, but I see no reason to take action tonight.
Okay, Mr. Wong?
I'll wait till Mr. Welch come on board. Right now, I do not want any breach of contract.
Well, all right, this is not a breach of contract. I heard what you said the first time. You want to wait, I can count to 2. I'm kind of used to that. So I will just table this until next year. That's all I have for now.
Mrs. Stoker?
Well, to address Mrs. Nichols' concern about going on with business before the previous minutes have been concerned, I think this issue has been brought up in years past. And Mrs. Boyko, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we received advice that the fact that our minutes are recorded on video ensures that we are not stumbling over ourselves and making decisions before the minutes are approved. Am I wrong, or is that... It's adequate for staff to say, once we vote to do something, for staff to then move and do it before the minutes for that particular meeting are approved. We already have on record the video proof of the approval given by the Board of Trustees.
I'm not sure I understand your question or your direction, but let me attempt to answer it. Is that it's been determined by the law director that the official record of proceedings are the minutes.
Yes.
They're the official documents and official record of proceedings. The videotape is just a supplemental that's available. Whether or not you are not required to have your minutes journalized for your action to be effective, and so staff can implement that action of the board without any kind of journalization of those meeting minutes. But in order to fulfill the proper record of proceedings as the document that documents your meetings, those are the official written minutes.
You say it so much better than I did. Thank you very much.
But Mr. Jones have released minutes that haven't been approved yet. So what is the problem? You release minutes all the time.
I think that's a whole other topic. Releasing minutes when they're just drafts for the public before they've been approved, but I think that's a whole other topic that maybe the new board should address. You know, I don't think anybody's raised an issue about that tonight. Let's see now. With respect to Jerry Nelson, a man that I have known for years and appreciate deeply, I'm so glad that Chad has received this great honor. I do hope he is able to return safely from home. I have another friend and neighbor whose son has been in for 5 tours. Scares me to death. So far, he's still alive, and I heard a rumor he may be able to get reassigned to a teaching position in one of our bases in one of the southern states. I forget which one, but thank goodness he'll be coming home safe, and he is soon going to have a child too. So we're very pleased. I tell everybody, any moment if the phone rings and I suddenly leap over the podium, it's because I've been called to be told I'm a grandmother, and all bets are off. It's the very first. We've waited forever. I gave up hope, But a granddaughter is coming. The official date is the 15th, which, as everybody knows who has children, that means at any moment. So I'm very excited about that. I suppose at some point we should get, since the issue's been raised, and a legal opinion as to whether or not the address of a public document, if the addressee is something which is also public, I wouldn't know, but I suppose some lawyer someplace has an opinion. Mr. Dieter, I don't think you are paying more in taxes because we give the occasional tax abatement. The actual fact is, when I first became a trustee in Westchester, the property taxes collected, 75% came from residents. As of now, of the property taxes which are paid, including payments in lieu of taxes in the TIF districts, over 50% is now paid by commercial entities. So our commercial base is helping subsidize services. For example, last year, our TIFs reimbursed to the school district over $3 million. So they also provide a lot of services. The library was built by not by residents' money, not one penny. That was built by funds paid into the Union Center Boulevard TIF by the businesses and commercial property owners in the Union Center Boulevard TIF. The new fire department, same story. That was paid for not by residents. It was paid for by the commercial property owners providing payments in lieu of taxes into the TIF. Same with that proposed bike path, which I'm incidentally recommending that we wait till next year to vote up or down whether or not it should proceed. None of that money is coming out of the pockets of residents. That's paid for by the payments in lieu of taxes made by the commercial property owners in the tax increment financing districts. Mr. Dieter. Yeah, but talk to me after the meeting, okay? And that's all I have. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. That's coming at us soon.
I just want to say that I have great respect for people who serve this country and those who lost their loved ones to our country. We have an executive session.
Yeah, I have two more items real quick. One, I'd also like to congratulate you on your recent election victory. And Kathy, I'd like to congratulate you on the oncoming birth of your grandchild.
Woohoo! Can hardly wait.
You're going to have a blast.
Yep.
Thank you, George. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and go into executive session for the purpose of considering and discussing 1. Personnel matters, discuss contract negotiation for a certain collective bargaining unit, review provisions of benefits for a non-contract employee, acquisition, sales, or swap of real property, and current and pending litigation. The board will not return.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think it would probably be appropriate for us to invite Mr. Welchin, the newly elected trustee.
I have no problem.
To join us.
I think that's been a tradition in past years.
Nope, we didn't do a roll call on that.
Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.